In this video, we're going to have a go at refurbishing the passenger side door card. We're going to give tips on aligning the door, and then we're going to align the window to the top seal and hopefully get both door cards on this car for the first time in 3 years. We're going to have a go at refurbishing this door card. First of all, I'm going to get my trusty helper to spray it down and get rid of some of that dirt. Is it still dirty?
Yeah, over here it is.
Really dirty, isn't it? So we might have to get some rust remover on here to get rid of these rusty bits. I'm going to start just by taking out all of these rusty staples. Then we're going to bend these little fittings here up, and that should allow us to get this old piece of hardboard off. We've also got to carefully take out these staples and hopefully retrieve this plastic without breaking it, although I can see that it is already cracked. We may have a spare one of those, I can't remember. Right, we pretty much got this off now. Good job we're not going to use this hardboard card again because most of it is broken. We just have to carefully slide that out of there. Grab the vacuum cleaner. Vacuum all that up before Mama sees it. So there's a couple of bits that we're going to need to keep off here. This foam here, it's a little bit wet where we've washed it down, so we'll have to just dry that out in the sun. This we'll have to try and get it off without cracking it. You can see that there's already exactly. So we're going to super glue that, but it's held on by this special fitting just here, and that's probably rusted solid. Now hopefully we've got a spare one of those because when we take that out, it's going to this little bit that goes across the handle at the top there. We're going to put that in a rust bath overnight. And what we're going to do is use this rust solution here just to go over the vinyl like this, and then with a just a brass brush, and then when we wipe that, you'll find that most of the rust comes off the vinyl quite nicely. We've had to cut out this hook here from a spare one of these we had. Unfortunately, it was on the wrong side of the car, and just glue in this piece here, but I think that's going to come out looking just like new. We've just used super glue to fix that. Just going to use a bit of trim fix to glue the sponge onto the back of the door card first. Finish up making that clip, bending those little tabs in there just to lock it in place. We're just going to dust that over now with some Rust-Oleum gold paint, just to give it that final OEM look. I've had this little bracing piece sitting in the rust bath overnight. We're just going to go over that with a wire wheel and then paint that with some rust encapsulator. We've stripped the rust off that, sprayed it with rust encapsulator. Now we're just going to glue that in there with some contact adhesive and just clamp it for a few minutes. It's time to put our heavily repaired plastic section in there. That is our homemade clip in there, holding the hardboard tight to the plastic. And now it's time for the most difficult part of all of this, which is to glue this to here with a thin bead of glue along the top. Now, as I mentioned in the previous video, I'm going to be using Gorilla Glue, a very thin bead of it, because I've had good success with that before. We're not going to be using a contact adhesive across there because there is a little bit of wiggling to get this hardboard in there. Just glued that with a thin bead of Gorilla Glue. The Gorilla Glue expands up to 3 times, so we've taken the tape away before the glue dries, and we're just going to clamp that for about 4 hours and then come back and try and fit the rest of the vinyl. It's really shrunk, so we're going to have to do some serious stretching to get that to fit. This has been clamped for a few hours. We're going to take the clamps off now and leave this overnight. What we don't want to do is end up leaving indentations in the vinyl we can't get out at a later date. It's a really hot sunny day here in Bristol, and that is allowing me to put this out in the sunshine, and this becomes very soft in the heat, and it's going to allow me to stretch it. I managed to stretch that vinyl and tack it all the way along, but I did make a schoolboy error. When you're using Gorilla Glue, you must make the wood damp with a damp sponge to get better adhesion. I didn't do that, so that didn't stick very well, so I've just attempting to re-stick that and see how that goes. Just need to fit these 2 trim pieces here, the handle and also the end of the air vent. Both genuine Mercedes parts, they're going to need just a dab of glue on them. The handle glued and tacked in. The end section here, just need to remember to put this little fitting here in the end. As I mentioned in my previous video, before you can align the window to the seals and put the door card on, you need to actually align the door. So we're going to have a go at doing that now. What I've started off doing is just marking where everything is to start off with, so that when we do make adjustments, we can see those adjustments on the tape. There are a few things worth pointing out before you start, and that is that these hinges here, the ones that attach to the chassis of the car, can both move the door up and down and also tilt it. But these hinges here, the ones that attach to the door, are the hinges that you're going to need to adjust if you find that your panel gap here is wider than your panel gap here. So the door hinges, the ones that attach to the door, can also move the door up and down and tilt it, but only the door hinges can move the door forwards and backwards. It's quite tricky to align the door by yourself, and the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to use a set of Allen keys. Now this door here is aligned perfectly, so I can see that the distance between that hinge and the chassis is exactly that distance there. Down here it's a smaller distance, so I can hang that in there. And then we've got an even smaller distance there. So when I come to move the door manually, I know that I can't move it any closer than that Allen key. After a few hours, we've pretty much got that door aligned to the best of our abilities. It's not 100% perfect, but it's an awful lot better than it was. One problem we still have, which I'm hoping I can adjust this fitting here to get rid of, is just a slight catching there. It is worth pointing out that if you've got new door seals on here, which we have, it may take a little while for the door just to settle in and become completely flush, but that's pretty good as it is. It's difficult to see exactly where the pin strikes in this hole, i.e. which part is catching, so I'm just going to put a piece of tape on there and draw a circle. And then here on the pin we can put a little of marker pen or grease or something like that, just so we can see where the tip of that pin touches. We've just put a tiny little dab of grease on the tip there, and now when we close the door, if we're careful, we should be able to just see where that's hitting. Wow, that is hitting all the way over here, so in fact the door does need to come this way a little bit. So what we need to try and do now is move the door this way without dropping it. So I've chocked it here and here, and hopefully that is enough to stop the door dropping. And what I have to do is undo these bolts here, and move the door just a millimeter or so this way. Hopefully when I undo this bolt here and these bolts here, you will not see the door drop down. I reckon that's pretty much it. We can come back later and then take one of these bolts out at a time and just paint them to give it that OEM look, but I won't do that now. And let's just see if that is closing. There we go. It's not perfect, but it's about as good as we are going to get it. Having spent hours aligning that door, I then just spent hours figuring out why the door handle didn't work, and I finally figured out it's because this weight here was cracked. It had a piece missing, and somebody had replaced this pin here with a slightly smaller pin, and just the slight movement in that handle meant that every time you went to open the door, this slipped out from the catch. So what we've done, luckily I have spare door handles. I've taken the pin out of this door handle. This is from a later R107 SL. You can tell by the key on them, but we've taken the pin out. We've also taken this off, but what I'm going to do is replace the pins that go through here with actually an M3 bolt. So it's a Saturday today. We ordered this on Friday afternoon. It's just arrived, so I'm hoping that's going to allow us to fix this. One thing we do not want happening is that pin to come out and have to retake the door to pieces, so we'll just put a dab of blue thread lock on that. We only had an M3 20mm bolt. What I've done is I've ordered an M3 25mm bolt with some small nuts and lock washers, and I'm hoping that'll allow us to fix this. Now, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to need on the end of here. So what I bought from Accu was a lock nut, but we've also got a spring washer and a little internal lock washer as well, because I have some M3 nuts. So if that is too wide, I'm not sure if that's going to make a difference. Then we can use a little lock washer and a thinner nut. There we go, we fixed that. Now we're just going to get an angle grinder and chop that last bit on. It wouldn't actually interfere with anything once the handle's in place, but it just makes the handle, getting the handle in and out of the gap rather awkward if you leave that on. We've trimmed that. Should just be a matter now of slotting that in and doing all the screws up. To get the handle in, you need to open the handle, get that bit in first, and it slots in like that. If you are ever needing to take the handle off, there are 2 screws here and then 1 inside the door, and you'll need the window up completely to get to that screw. Screw, you kind of need to go through this hole here. If all has gone to plan, we should be able to slam this door now and open it with this handle, which we've not been able to do hitherto. There we go. So next up, we just need to align the window, and then we should be ready to put the door card on. So this window is tilted that way, we need to tilt it that way, and also it is touching the seal long before it should, so we need to bring it out a little bit. Well, that took such a long time to get that door card on. We're just missing a little bit of plastic trim here, which I'm sure I've got somewhere, and then we've just got to repair this door handle here where someone's pulled the vinyl off because they didn't know how to get this off. I'll do a separate video on that because we've also got to replace and repair the soft top clamshell release handle as well. And then in the next video, I think we'll set about putting the door trims and the lower sills on, and then maybe start working a little bit on the interior, the under dash trims, the speaker covers, etc.